Okay, you should have all these parts done now from this whole list. Some of them are square, some of them are definitely not square. And the end of the goal today, when you get done, would be to have this done. Where is my download at here? Oh, that's the wrong one, of course. There it is. So you need an assembly like this basically when you get done. You have to have your own design in the slats. So you can do that last after we get all that. Because if you update one, they should automatically cascade all the way through. So last class we drew all these up, and today we're going to try to assemble these. A couple, like I said, the main thing I like about this is how your final project should be, except you're also going to have part drawings. I'm not going to have you do all the part drawings, but the final project would have part drawings. But otherwise, it'd be very similar to this. I mean, you might add the screws to it too to take it the rest of the level or the rest of the way, but it's real close. The other thing I like about this is you'll notice as we go along, this thing was designed by somebody way back when, and it's got all these pencil drawings, and they're a little ways off. So you're going to notice there's going to be some parts we're going to have to update as we go, which that's 100% real world. So it's another real world example. So we'll be doing that today as we go through it. It should go pretty slick, hopefully. So I think I'll try to do a split screen with this opened up, maybe. 2L doesn't like me, so we'll see. So I'm going to use this as my example to kind of, how we're going to put it together. So we'll put together one side, and there's a million ways to do this. This is just the way I try to do the most efficient, but there's probably even a more efficient way. So I'm going to use this very bottom seat, what is this thing even called? Seat support as my base part that I'm going to right click and drop in the origin to make sure that's on the origin locked down. And then we'll start adding all these other little parts, like the front's probably an easy one, that nose piece, and then this little upright, and then this little front arm support, this little cantilever piece there, and then probably the arm, okay, and then the back piece, and then we'll add maybe a couple more of these on there, and then we'll mirror it across the other side, okay, and then we'll put the probably these back seat slats in, we'll linear pattern them across there so they'll go in real nice, and then we'll put these in. These won't go in real nice, but they'll go in eventually. You have to do kind of like we did on our bridge, put them down, and I'd like to have like a 1/4 inch spacing on there. Put one down at a time. There's no easy way to pattern these. In AutoCAD, you could follow that shape or that line, but in Inventor, I haven't figured it out. Maybe somebody else will, but you have to you could do one circular pattern, another circular pattern. It's just not worth it. You're better off just putting a bunch of separate pieces in, as far as I've seen anyway. So we'll do that. So that's kind of our plan, all right? So we'll bring that one in. First thing we need to do is start an assembly, and then and then we're going to save it. Okay, make sure it's going to the right place. So save. So I'm going to call this Porch Swing. It's an assembly, right? All caps typically. And save. Okay, so we've got that done. Let's bring in our first part. Okay, so that was that bottom seat support. There's so many names here; it's hard to keep track of them. But luckily, it gives us a little picture here. So it's that bottom one I showed you a minute ago. So I think it'd be the front seat support. No, that's not it. Seat support. There we go. Yeah. So bring in the seat support. Okay, should look like that one. And hit open, and make sure you right click and place ground at origin. Very important, because that's our base part. Okay, so we've got that in. You only need one of them, so escape. We're going to mirror the whole assembly to the other side, so don't bring in two. It's a lot more work than you really need to do.
What was it again? What was the part?
It's a seat support. Okay, it should look like that. You should be able to see a little preview of it when you pick on it. Okay, it should give you a little thumbnail of it. I'm gonna go to split screen now. Yeah, so right click and drop at the origin. Okay. Now let's go ahead and bring in all the other pieces. So go ahead and hit place and hold down the control key and pick everything else, but don't pick the assembly and don't pick the seat support because we already got it in there. But everything else, pick it. So I'm holding down control and picking them all, except for the seat support, which I didn't pick luckily, and not the assembly. So there's a bunch of them. Then you don't have to remember their names because you can just look at them. I hope I got them all. Hit open and just drop them, I don't know, out of the way somewhere. They're big, and every time you rotate, it'll be a mess, so don't drop them too far away. Okay, we just need one of them again, so hit escape. All right, is everybody good? We should have God's plenty of time today to get this done, I think, unless we run into, which we do run into problems sometimes, so I never know. We should be okay. All right, so I always try to align my design to what I'm kind of, my sketch or whatever that I'm going off of. So it's definitely backwards. So I'm going to spin my view cube around to the opposite corner like that. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom back into my seat support wherever it went right there. So now it looks real similar to this picture I'm going off of, right? I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that. You might want to have it open on your other screen. You guys got two screens anyway. I've got kind of the miniature screen here. D2L likes taking up the whole screen with my schedule there. I just got into it. Okay, is everybody good? All right, so the first piece we're going to put on is this nose. And I don't remember what sizes we all brought in, but let's just check our sizes and make sure we got the right place. So to do that, if we go to Tools and we go to Measure, we can measure the very front edge of this thing like that, and it says it's 1 5/8. So we need to find an edge that's 1 5/8 to bring in there, because I don't know which one it is. I think it's similar on the ones we did, because we ended up making one edge. We made it 1.5 inches thick. Okay, so the longer edge probably is the right one. So now I need to find that part, and now I'm gonna measure the edge on that. It's probably this one, but let's double check. So I go to Measure, and yeah, that's 1 5/8. So this face has got to be on the front face of that other one. Okay, and the bottom is 1.5 inches, I'm sure. And we did change it to make it so a whole slat could fit on it, right? The whole seat slat. All right, so let's go ahead and start putting things together. So go back to the Assemble tab, okay? And now I typically like aligning planes whenever I can. I think it's easier and it takes less picks, but when you're constraining it. But there'll be a lot of these where that just won't work, so we'll talk about them as we go. But definitely the back of this, see the back of it goes to the front of that other piece. So hit constrain and pick the back of your, well, it looks like the front, I guess, in this, but it will be the back of it, of that seat, big, long, 4-foot long seat support, okay? And then put it all the way down there on the front of your front plane of this one, okay? And it is opposed, so just like that's fine. Hit apply, don't forget to hit apply or it's not really there, okay? And then you can probably guess, we got to line up this face with the other face over here. So hit this face here. And this one will be flush, so you'll want to switch it over to flush. You can do it after you pick it, it's fine, with this one here. Now they should line up real nice like that. Now it looks like they are the right height. We got lucky, well, we haven't done the bottom yet, but they look like they're the right height. Okay, hit apply. And now you can guess we're going to do the bottoms next. I'll slow down in case somebody gets stuck after I get done doing that. So now I'm still on flush because I didn't change, so I'm going to do the two bottoms. They're both flush. Okay, so I used 3 planes, and since these were 1 5/8, this thing's lining up perfect, which is real nice. Don't forget to hit apply. If you don't hit apply, it's not really done. All right, that one wasn't too bad. So now we're going to do, you just got to kind of pick the next one. I think we'll do this little upright piece next, okay? And I don't know how far back. It doesn't really say. Probably 3 inches. You want it a little bit far back there, I guess. But there's a chain going up right by that too. So it probably needs some but it kind of depends on where our chain is. So I don't remember where that chain is. So right now I'm going to go figure out where that chain is, because it should go through there. Well, if we're not careful, to go right through that upright, which could be a problem. So, no, we're going to start out with 3 inches, and we'll just move it after the fact. It's just easier to do it that way. All right, so let's put that upright on there and move it 3 inches back, and we'll just see what happens with our arm, because our arm's going to probably have some issues anyway. Okay, so how do I have 2 of these? I thought I didn't pick that, but I picked it. Leave that off there. There's my little upright right there. Okay, so I'm going to constrain one side of this thing right there to the face of this piece, and it is mated to it, which should be, since we got out of it. Okay, so it's mated, apply, and 2 bottoms line up again, so I might as well do them next. Bottom, bottom. They are flush. Okay, so you gotta switch it to flush, apply, and then the fronts are 3 inches apart. So I'm gonna pick the front of this one and the front of this one, and they are flush, and I'm gonna say 3. It probably is a -3 just because my arrows where they're pointed. Okay, so -3, so it goes back. Okay, and that'll probably have to change later. Apply and okay. So when you're doing these, if you have a problem with it, like a lot of times you do when you're constraining these, just pick the object that's not working or giving you errors. And you want to do them right in the beginning, because the farther you get along and more problems you have, it really screws it up if you have a few errors. But if I have something wrong here, I'll pick on that so I can see it in my browser, and I'll expand it. Okay, now here's all 3 of my ones I just did. You can right click and edit them or delete them and do them again. Okay, so it's always handy to kind of see them in there. Everybody still good? All right, so the next piece, let's do this. That's okay.
3, right? You said -3 from.
Yeah, -3, yep. I'm not sure where I stopped the video at. So again, I'm lining that other one up with a couple mates. So I did the 2 faces there, mate flush, and I did the back of it. The back of both of these is flush, and this one is, these 2 are mated right in there. All right, so now let's just kind of inspect it a little bit here. If I can, spin it around. I got all these other pieces floating around, so it's hard to spin it. But I'm trying to zoom into this, see if it's the right height. I can kind of tell it's not. Maybe it is. It ain't too far. It's pretty darn close. So I don't think we got to change much there. So we do need to line up, this bottom will almost for sure, this isn't a 90 degree and this is, so you can't line up the bottoms. It's just not possible. But you can line up those bottom edges. Okay, so let's do that. Right, so go to constrain and make sure it'll be on mate. That's default. And we're going to pick this bottom edge and this bottom edge. Okay, and it lines up actually pretty darn good. It's close enough. I mean, you could change it an eighth longer if you really wanted to make it perfect if you're selling these. But even then, it wouldn't be perfect. So it's kind of about right the way it is. So that's pretty sweet. Is everybody's the same, or is everybody's missing a lot? If yours is missing a lot, what you'd want to do, hit undirected when you pick this too. I'm sorry, I should have said that. So you always want to pick undirected, because that way it doesn't have as many problems. Not always, but a lot of times. Hit apply, because I don't care what direction it goes. Okay. So if it's too short right here, you could double click on this, open it, expand the extrusion, expand the sketch, and change the height to whatever you need it to be. Mine's a 2.5. Okay. I don't remember what it was actually before, but if it's right on like that, then you're good to go anyway, and then you return back into it. You save it and return back into it. So that's what I like about this thing, because he didn't do the best job. I mean, he did a nice job drawing this up, but as you can see, some things just don't line up. So that's very real world to have to change it as we go here. Okay, so we've got that done. This piece sits on the outside. I guess we'll do it next. We don't really know the angle it's going to sit, because this thing forces it to be in there. Well, let's do that piece next. Let's do this arm next, and then we can locate this one from it, and then we can locate these 2 after that. Okay, now we might have to change, we probably will have to change the arm, but at least we can definitely locate it. Okay, so it goes on top of all this. You've got to kind of estimate how far forward it's sitting, but if you look at this picture, the front nose of the piece is basically sitting on the front nose of the arm. The nose piece, what do they call it? The front seat support, is the front of it's the same. So we use that to line up how far it is over, okay? And then the rest of it's just regular, well, they're all regular constraints with you doing that. Right, so that is this one right here, okay? And look how I'm sorry, that ain't the right one. Where's my arm at? There's my arm, okay? Yep. Okay, so now we're going to do this arm. Now look at where the arm is on there. You know, it's got to be, this notch has to be towards the inside because that's going to be basically going around this upright next, okay? So that notch has to be towards the inside. So you got to kind of think it through. So on mine, the bottom of it goes on this face, so I have to swing it around. It goes on one of these two faces, okay? And yours might be the same. It depends on how you drew it, you know. Probably the same. So I'm going to hit constrain, but think about how it is so when it flips around, it'll be right. I'm going to pick the top of that, and it has to actually go the back side of this one, which I can't see, so I got to spin this mess. So I always zoom out before I spin something this big because it's going to make, otherwise it won't spin right anyway. And I'm doing the back side of this, so I think I got that right. I mess it up all the time too, so it ain't no big deal if you do it. But now if I spin that 180 degrees, I'm gonna hit apply, close out of that. So when this thing spins around, it'll be right. Okay? Because see, the notch is on the outside now, but it'll spin once I get everything faced right. Okay, I can't see. It looks like such a small. It looks like the inside of this face is lined up perfectly with the back side of that. So we'll do that next, okay? And that should spin it for us. They are flush, the next ones. So constrain, flush, and this face right here will be lined up with the back side of the other one, right? Just, yeah, this one right here. Okay. And that spun it around for us, okay? Just like that, those two faces. Make sure your notch is on the inside, because if it's not on the inside, the next piece won't work. If it isn't, then you got to delete that other constraint and go with the other face on the first one. Okay, and hit apply. And now we're going to do the two noses. So the nose of this front seat support there is flush with the nose of the arm. There's only a little bitty plane on that arm. It's not very big. Okay, you can see them both there. Okay, make sure those are flush. Apply. So that's, like I said, most time I use planes on that. Worked out pretty good so far. Everything's kind of lining up and locked down. A few inch increments here and there. All right, everybody get that to work? All right, so next thing we're going to do is this upright. So the upright's kind of the same way. Notice those notches got to be on the inside, and that radius has got to be on the top. Okay, so you really got to think it through on that one. So again, this one's going to have to be flipped around because my notches are on the back side of it. Okay, but it at least is up and down, right? So I'm going to hit constrain. So you really got to think in 3D sometimes to get these to work. So when it goes on the outside of this one, so I'm going to have to flip it. So I'm going to pick the other side of this thing right here, that face, and then I'm going to pick on, and it's got to be mated. It's like two hands together, right, on this face. Okay. It's upside down, but it'll be right once I flip it around. Okay. I hit apply. Okay, there's not a lot of more that's at the right angle here. We can't force it to be because it depends on what length this is. So what I typically do at this point is rotate something like this around so it's closer to right, because if you don't, when you start constraining the lines, it'll freak out on you and give you errors. So I'm going to go to the view that I can face this head on, okay, which is the back face on mine. Okay, so now I got this view just like that, just like it is on screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually rotate this piece so it's correct. Okay, because I got my faces correct, but it's rotated upside down. So to do that, there's a little rotate key up here that says free rotate. But you got to be on the right face first of all, or it'll make it all kind of cattywampus. So free rotate, okay, and you pick the part. Now you pick on the outside of the circle and move it the way you want to go. Inside of the circle is going to spin it in 3D. So outside of the circle, and stay on the outside of the circle, and keep walking it around there until it looks like it's close. Like that. Okay, now it's at least the right direction. Now you just hit escape. And there's a couple things we can do here. You can probably guess right here on the edge of it, it's on the same as the bottom of the seat support, okay? So I'm gonna line up this edge with the bottom of the seat support, and I should be good. Now if I spin it, it should be halfway close to where it's supposed to be. So now I go to constrain, and I pick this bottom little edge right there, and you can see that's right on the bottom of it. So we're gonna put that on the bottom of my seat support, or any bottom of any of those, but there's only a couple pieces. Any of those 3 pieces would really work. And it's got to be mated, not flush, because lines don't, if you don't mate them, you don't flush when you mate them. Okay, and then apply. So I've got that done. Okay, now I need to kind of do the same thing. How do I get it all the way back there the best way? Because I don't want it to lock in. I don't want it to lock my angle in. Okay, because I want this thing to set my angle. Is the whole reason we're going through this whole mess. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do the same thing with this edge of that one going to the back, that short little edge. Okay, so I'll go try to do it slow here, so you can kind of see me do it. So this little edge right here is locked to the back face of this. And eventually it'll drag all the way over there when I do the top one, which I haven't done the top one yet. Okay, there's several edges that all gonna line. It's like a 4-bar linkage almost. Okay. So I'm going to do constrain again. I'm going to do this little bitty edge on this this arm there, whatever you call it, the bottom seat support, okay? And it lines up with this face. You can't really see that face I'm picking, but it's that face of that arm. Okay, now it's at a crazy angle, but that's okay. Okay, so now this line's always going to be on that, and that line's always going to be on it. And as soon as I put my arm on it, I should be good. So hit apply. So this one's going to have a lot of them, but there's just, I didn't see a better way to do it. They have that one, and one up here, and the face. You could maybe force the angle, but then this piece might not reach. Okay, so that's why I'm going through all this. Okay, I'll do one more, and if anybody has problems, I'll help them. So there's one more in here. So the last one, it's hard to tell, but it could be the top or the bottom, but it's probably the bottom because the way this is an angle and this is straight, the top shouldn't actually hit, okay? So I'm going to do the bottom of this arm little angle, if I get to it, to that flat that's going to go on. So this right there, okay? So the bottom of that would be like right here, okay? And that's going to be on the front face of that piece there, right there. Okay, and hit apply. So we did 3 edges on that one. So that's definitely a little bit of a tricky one, but it's neat how it all works. So it can't move now. It is fully constrained. But if you look at it, it's not straight up and down, but it's pretty bad. Nobody's going to ever want to sit in that, right? Unless they got bad posture, I guess, and they want to get better. But for the most part. So we're going to fix that here in a second. Right, because the darn arm's not long enough. I mean, we could do a couple things. We could shorten up this piece too, I guess. I just picked the arm. I don't really know why. Either one would really work. It looks like, well, maybe it should be this piece, because it almost looks like the seat's not tall enough, but back in the day, they didn't make very tall backs on these things, but it does look like this is out of shape compared to this piece. I don't know. Hard to tell. But if I was going to really make this thing, I'd make this back seat a lot taller too. All right, so let's just change the size, the length of this arm and put it back. We're going to make it 2 inches longer so that it'll actually lean back far enough, okay? So to do that, just double click on your arm, or hit escape to get out of constraint. Double click on your arm, get into it, okay? And expand your extrusion and double click on your sketch. Okay, there's a couple things here. You just stay in there for a second. I want to check something real quick. So if I go to the top view of this thing, I want to make sure nothing's hitting. Let's return back to it. See, I can see the chain's going to have to go right through that hole, but that's actually kind of good because that means it would be right where it's going to have strength. So, I'd probably just drill a little bit of angle and let the chain go through there, or the cable, or whatever, and leave it like it is. So that hole is fine, is what I was getting to. I was kind of worried about that. All right, so let me get back in that sketch where everybody else is. Okay, so now I'm in that sketch. So I want that hole and all this to stay the same. I just want all this stuff in the back to grow. So these are all locked in. So So if I want this hole to stay, that's that hole. If I want it to stay the same, I'd like this hole to come forward. And we did line it up 3 inches back from here. So if I change this number, I'd also have to change this number. But I kind of don't like that hole being right next to this weak edge. Okay? But then on the other hand, it doesn't need to be far enough back there or it will tip over on you. So let's leave all that alone. All right, so we're going to change the overall length, make it 2 inches longer, and we're going to change the, also going to have to change this hole location because otherwise it won't be the same place. It'll be way back there and it won't sit right, okay? So we'll double click on the 22 or however long yours is, okay? Make it 24, okay? Now you notice everything moved except for that hole. I want that hole to move too. So I've got 12 3/4, so I'll make it 14 3/4. Okay, so one thing I did was move that hole and this piece forward. Now sometimes depending on how you drew this, that could turn into a real mess after you do that. But the way we drew this one, we got kind of lucky. It just updated that. Those 2 dimensions fixed it all. All right, when you get done with that, finish the sketch. Make sure you save it since we're still in that part. And then return to the assembly. And then I always save when I'm in there too, just because we just made a change outside of it. And everything did line up. The hole's still there, barely hitting it, so I could just put a little drill through there for my chain. And if I go to the front view or whatever, it's not really front view anymore, the back view or whatever, you can see it's at a nice angle. That's a really big angle. I don't know, that might be too much, but today it's going to have to work. Everything's looking really nice. It's just a little bit steep, so maybe I should have done 1.5 inches. Okay, one of the students didn't update, so sometimes you got to go to the manage and the rebuild all or update button will take care of that. Okay, and sometimes it doesn't too. You just got to save and give it time. But mine did ultimately. The newer ones do update better than the old ones. Okay, now we're just going to add boards. So we're going to add that one that goes in here, and we're going to add the one here, and then we're going to start adding the. Well, then we mirror it, and then we start adding the slats in there. Okay, I think. Okay, so let's do that first. So let's add these other 2 pieces. Let's do the top one first, constrain, and then where's it at? Way over here. So I'm going to do the back of that is mated with the back of the, or the front of that or whatever, that little notch. Okay, hit apply. This one's not too bad. Just think about the 3 faces that are touching. Okay, and that one's flush. Okay, apply. And then the bottoms are mated. Okay, so that fits real nice. I was kind of worried about how well that would line up, but it lines up just perfect. So I think we talked about that last class, so hit apply. All right, so that one's done, and the other one is kind of the same way. It goes in the slot. Do the back of it is mated with back of that slot here. Apply. These 2 faces are flush. Apply, and the bottom of both again are mated. Could have done those in the right order and I wouldn't have had to flip it, but it's hard to remember which ones are which till you do them. That one and that one are mated, right? Kind of think it through. So they're touching, they're mated if they're facing each other. Okay. All right, so those all lined up perfect. Board colors on purpose, but somehow I managed to do it. But it actually shows up better when you're drawing them, so that's kind of nice. This one would have been nice with a different color as well. Okay, I think we're ready to mirror this. Okay, so you know we could at this point put these slats in here, but might as well mirror it first, I think, because I really don't want those to be constrained to this anyway. So this is probably a good place to save, for sure. And then, so when we mirror this over, one thing that's interesting, so we mated all these parts together, right? Well, if we mirror the whole group over, some of them are flipped. Like this one's flipped. If you think about it, it's kind of flipped upside down. I mean, it's symmetrical, but I don't really know if the inventor's got the programming to understand that, but it does seem to work. Okay, so you kind of got to watch that because it really is this. I mean, if it's mirrored over, it could be should probably be a new part if it had anything non-symmetrical about it. Now, I think this thing is symmetrical, so I think it's fine. But but it will mirror them all. It'll also mirror all the constraints typically too. But this piece here and this piece here and this piece here and this piece here are not being mirrored, right? Because they go full length. So any constraint attached to them will not be there when you mirror it. So I always just don't move it. Now, if you accidentally move this piece, you got to remember that's why it moved, because if you don't move it, it didn't really matter so much, you know. But as soon as you move it or you get into a complex assembly that's got multiple pieces, it can break pretty easy. And if you're going to do a real complex assembly, you really need to go back and constrain all these pieces, at least one of them anyway, to this so it can't move. A couple of them so it locks it into location. Because this whole assembly will be still constrained. All right, so we need a mid plane. All right, so you can do a mid plane between two planes, but it seems like it's broke half the time. That's that one, because I've got a plane here and here. That would be the best one, but it don't work. So I'm gonna do 3 points. Okay, 3 points. Got that there, and I'm gonna find my center point of any one of these long pieces, but make sure it's the center. So it's grabbing the ends of these. So don't grab the ends of those. You want the midpoint of this board. I'm gonna grab the one of them, two of them, and 3 midpoints. That's the definition of a plane, right? So now I've got 3 midpoints. I've got a nice mid plane. Okay. Now we can mirror this whole, whatever you want to call it, arm assembly to the other side. So I'm going to pick mirror. Okay. I'd like to window my parts, but it's not letting me, so I'm going to hold down a control and pick them very carefully. And don't pick them all, we're just picking the arm assembly, right? Like 5 pieces there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, those 5 pieces need to go their side. Once you get them picked, make sure you switch it over to yellow so you don't create new parts, because it will create mirror parts if you do. And these are symmetrical, so it doesn't need to. Okay. Then I'm gonna pick mirror plane, so make sure they're yellow. And then I'm gonna hit the top button, switch them all over. Very top yellow button, switch them all to yellow. And then after that, I pick the mirror plane. I'm going to pick on that new plane I just created, and it should look perfect when you get it done. It's lining up real nice and everything. So that looks good. Hit next. And it does have mirror relationships. And you can, I guess there's a ground new components button too, which would lock them all down to the UCS. So it's not true constraining, I guess, but it would lock them down. I haven't done that one really much. But next, hit OK. Okay, so now don't touch those other ones or they'll probably go all over the place. All right, so we've got that done. Everybody get that to work? Okay, so we're going to basically put this back slat. We did make this symmetrical, I think. Kind of doesn't look like it there. We didn't. This would be at least I didn't. Thought I did, but evidently I didn't. This bottom's longer than the top. So this would be I typically want, I don't know, usually want the bigger part on the bottom, smaller part on top. So I'm putting this on towards the bottom. Okay, if I should have made it symmetrical, it'd probably be easier. Remember, this is the part that you have to modify the face, cut some fancy design in after we get done assembling this. Okay, so we're ready to put this on. It's a pretty simple one. So constrain, and the bottom of this goes on top of that bottom cross beam there. So there's my bottom right there, maybe. There we go. And it goes on top of this. Okay, and they are mated, so apply. Okay, and then this thing was 1/2 inch thick, and this is 3/4. So this face will be a 1/2 inch forward of this one, and vice versa on the other side. And that is flush. So I'm going to pick flush, pick this face and this face, and I'm going to type in. Look at the way the arrows are going. So it's a negative 0.125. Okay, see how it centered it up real nice now. Okay, so this face is 1/8 of an inch back from that face. Okay, then hit apply. Okay, and this thing is, if you check the distance of it, so I'm going to go over here to tools, measure, see how big it is. Okay, so it's 2 3/8, right? And this whole distance before, if you remember, with this shorter board that we put in, was 48 inches. So, if you come out, it's going to have some spacing in between. So an easy number is 48 divided by 3/16. Okay, so I put 16 of these. They're going to have to be on 3-inch centers. That means the first one's going to be, I'll have to have 3/8 on one side and 3/8 on the other side to get it to fit in, because it's 3/4 off. It's 5/8 off that, not 3/4. All right, so 5/16 over on both sides maybe. Okay, because 2 3 minus 2 3/8 is 5/8. So I'll have to have a 5/16 space on this side and that side. So let's do that one next. So I go to constrain, okay, and I do this face, and it needs to be 5/16 off that back of that other one if I can get to it. That face, they are mated, and my arrows, it looks like I should just put 5/16 in here. I'm going to go to this face so I can see what I'm doing. And it looks like 5/16 even. It's 5/16, you can just type it, 5/16. Okay, so you end up with a 5/16 space between these two faces that my arrows are pointing at. Okay, this one and this one. Apply. That one's pretty easy really too, not too bad. In the real world, you'd probably, I don't know, make this a little thinner and make this a little thicker and dado it, because those aren't going to, that's not going to stay in there very good. Dado ones you can just do it with a saw cut. Just set your blade up and cut it 3 times so it's the same width as this board and put them in there. It'd be stronger than heck. So, but in the interest of doing this in 2 class periods, I'd probably make you do that on the final project if you did this one. All right, so we've got that done. At this point, we probably are ready to linear pattern this and close out the constraint. And we're just going to make it 16 of them down. So linear pattern. Okay, pause this. I'm on the linear pattern. All right, linear pattern, real fast. Pick pattern, pick rectangular. Pick your component, which is this. Pick your direction, which is that. It's going the wrong way, so flip it. 3 inches was our distance apart. We had 16 of them, since 48 divided by 3, and I definitely screwed that up. The faster you go, the longer it takes. I hit escape, right click on component, we go to edit, and my distance and number I flip-flopped. So 16 on the quantity and 3 on the distance. There we go, that looks a whole lot better. Okay, so that's done. All right, so now we're going to do this piece. So this piece is not too bad. I'm trying to work from the same side, so I want to do it on the other side. I'm going to drag it over there because this side isn't really constrained. I'm worried as soon as I start, if I constrain stuff to this side, it could yank it all over the place, and I don't want to have to reconstrain everything. So I'm making sure I'm always constrained to the same side I started with, because I know this one's locked down, right? Okay, so the way we're going to do this is so you have to do a few edges. I'm trying not to screw it up. And a few flats or a few planes. Okay, so the front face, of course, is always flush with this one on all of them. Okay. And then this front edge will be across the top on that little plane there, tangent on most of them. Okay. This one's actually straight, so it's not tangent on that, but the rest of them are curves. And then this one will also be tangent or just regular constrained if it's flat like the first one. So I'm going to do 2 of them with you, the first 2 with you, and then anybody that gets stuck, I'll give you a hand, okay? So first one was pretty easy. So we do constrain. We just do this face is flush with this face, right? Or this one. It don't make any difference. Okay. I hit apply. Next one gets a little bit trickier. So now I do mated because it can't flush a line. So I'm going to do that edge with this edge because they're both touching. Okay. Now I'm gonna hit undirected and apply. Now you can try to do this bottom edge, but I would typically rotate this at this point because if it's not close, sometimes it'll break and give you errors. So I'll go to the front view of that. Okay. I know it's going to rotate because this was the edge I did, so I'm just going to hit escape, grab that part, and just spin it with my mouse, left mouse it, okay? And I'm going to spin it so it actually looks like it'll work. And then I can pick the edge better that way too. Now I'm going to do the kind of same thing as I did there, except I'm going to put it on this face, okay? So constrain this face to this one. And hit apply. Hopefully you don't get any errors. Now I noticed on this one here it said there's a 1/4 inch spacing in here. So I'm going to try to do that. We'll see if it actually works. We need a bunch more of these pieces. So I'm going to bring in, I don't know how many are there. It looks like about 10 of them. So I'm going to bring in a bunch of those at this point. File. Oops, I'm sorry. I'll just one other place. And that is the, what's that thing called? Seat slat. So grab that open. I'm just going to dump in a bunch of them. Try to. think it was another,
How many do we need?
I don't know, I'm bringing in about 8. You can always delete them. Plenty. Okay. All right, so I've got them in there. So I'll do 2 more with you, and then you're on your own on the rest of this project. And like I said, you're not really on your own. I'll help you get stuck. So we're going to constrain the other one kind of the same way, but it's a little bit different. So I'm going to pick that face and this face, okay? And they got to be flush so it spins it. Okay, but then I hit apply. I can't see it, so I'm going to hit escape and drag it up so I can actually see the thing. Okay, now I want a 1/4 inch apart. So that's kind of the one trick here. Okay, so make sure you watch this part. All right, so I want these 2 faces, even though they're not going to line up perfectly, when you screw it on there, the screws will make it line up perfect. So this face is mated to the matching face of the next one with a quarter, make sure it's a flat, okay, and they're a 1/4 inch apart, 0.25, right? Just like that. And hit apply. That looks kind of funky. I'm not sure why it's stuck inside there. I don't know. All right, so then I'm going to do this next edge tangent with this face here and see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't break. So I'm going to pick tangent, okay? I'm going to pick that back edge of that thing. And this is kind of like what we did on our bridge. That one, you might have to pre-spin it in this face. And that actually brought it down real close. It's a little bit into the part, but not much, okay? And you're going to do that the whole rest of the way, okay? Face to face, edge is a 1/4 inch away, and tangent until you get all the way down to the other side, okay? And that should help you finish it. And then you got to do your drawing. All right, so that actually everything worked out pretty good on that one. So if anybody gets stuck, I'll help you. But so face to face, 1/4 inch between them, and then tangent. Okay, if your edges aren't looking right, like it's coming way off, you might have to not have that 1/4 inch in there. That won't work on you. Hopefully it does, though. Mine's coming out good, but not everybody's is. One more here. That one. Flush. That one. Fly. That one. Mated with that one. 2.5. Fly. Tangent. This face to that. Fly. Okay, hopefully yours is working like that too. If it's not, then get rid of the 1/4 inch. Maybe that'll solve it. Make sure you do the full assembly drawing, like an example. Okay, to get these to work for a workaround, you do them similar. You do the 2 faces. So right here, you constrain the front face to this face, just like we talked about. Flush, apply, move it around a little bit so it's closer. Do those 2 1/4 inch faces, and then delete that one and do 2 tangents. So I do this face right there, mated to this face with a 1/4 inch off. That, apply, and I find that one, of course, so that one has to be deleted. So delete that last 1/4 inch one, and then do 2 tangents, and it seems to clean up pretty decent. So I'm going to do this tangent on the front, that tangent, this, fly, and then tangent on the back. Bottom line, tangent to that same face, fly. Do that all the way across. It's not perfect, but still a little better than it was. And just continue to do that. Do this one next. That one. Flush with this one. Fly. wrench. There. There. Closed. 0.25. Delete it and do my 2 tangents again. Do that the rest of the way around. That seems to clean it up pretty nice at work. So do that work around if you need to.